Hi, I'm Michelle Vickers. Welcome back to the Authentic Human Podcast. This is part 86 of the story of creation. And we're going to just jump in today because it's been a crazy, awesome week of messages just continuing and information. It's like, honestly, it feels like Niagara Falls of information is just coming through from the universe, and it doesn't want to stop, which, is awesome and it's exciting. But, I like sleep. I also like to not have to be quite on so much. Anyways, so there's some joy, right? And there's some laughter in all of it. So right now, let's see, we've got everyone here. Like it's like I'm standing in a room, and yet the room is a universal space. So it's completely open to the universe, and it is like standing room only. There are so many universal beings here today. So we are recording on November 28th. And I feel like, usually it's a couple weeks before these actually get published out into the world. We're recording live in front of our private audience, our private community. But they're showing me like this is the preparation, if you will, for what's coming very, very soon in the solstice. So the solstice is typically December 20th, 21st. And it is in the northern hemisphere, it will be our winter solstice. And in the southern hemisphere, it is your summer solstice. And so typically the December solstice, I have to take a few deep breaths. It sounds really odd, I know that, but the energy is so big. I'm just trying to process it and slow it down a little bit so I can actually put it into words that make sense. So ultimately, what they're showing me is, I'm sweating. Like all of a sudden, the energy is so intense. Okay, so so December 21st is universally, okay, the new year. Now, this is important because there's no such thing as time and space in the universe, right? So how do we even need a new year? What does that mean? And so this is where we understand that the creator, so he says, just like all of you, he reviews his creation. He reviews, what's working, what's not working, what needs assistance, what needs more attention, what needs less attention. And so that review gives him the wisdom, the insight, the information that he needs to then choose what direction his creation is going forward. Okay. Now, unlike a lot of religious-based beliefs, right? He's not leading us by telling us what to do. Okay. He's not there to say, this is what you need to do, and then expect us to do it. And we're doing it expecting to be told we're either doing a good job or a bad job, right? So that whole concept of judgment, that's not what his review is about, okay? His review is not to see if it's a good job or a bad job, right? There's zero judgment in universal beings. What he's reviewing is the potential of universal existence. And this happens regularly, right? So personally, based on their information and the messages and the conversations that I've had with these universal beings, over the last 20 plus years, I review 4 times a year, personally, quarterly. So every solstice and equinox. Why? Because I don't have a stable enough connection with the universe to be in that state of full consciousness all the time. And he says, he is in the creator. He's saying, that's a good practice because it's regular, right? For him, it's, it's an annual thing, but here's why, okay? It has nothing to do with the time and space aspect of existence. What it has to do with is understanding how long it takes humans, in particular, to process universal information. Okay? It takes 1 year minimum for you to fully process an upgrade in existence. 1 year, okay? So for all of us who are like, oh yeah, I got that download and it was like instantaneous, right? You got it, but then it took you a year to fully embrace it, to allow it to permeate every aspect of your life, every belief system of your life, every experience, every relationship, every conversation. It takes time. Why? Because we're underneath. Remember, humanity is like shrouded, right? In this system built on fear and manipulation and control. Okay. And so for us to access truth in any possible way, we have to first weed through all the lies. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's in your personal space, whether it's in your community space, whether it's in your personal relationships, your career, it doesn't matter, right? What matters is understanding that your interaction with the universe changes based on the creator's intentions. Okay? Now, his intentions have shifted significantly in the past 8 to 9 years. Okay. Yes, they've been shifting for a long time, but specifically in the last 8 to 9. So 25 years ago, he started preparing, okay, for this current shift. Now, I know you're sitting there going, but you just said time and space doesn't exist, right? Because it doesn't really. But what does is human processing. That takes time, okay? And what I mean by time is you need as many experiences as possible to help you integrate that new level of awareness, right? Because again, they've shared this many, many times, right? Knowledge and wisdom. Okay, so knowledge is a bunch of stuff you know, right? Wisdom is a bunch of stuff you know with experience. If you don't have the experience, you don't have wisdom. You just have a bunch of stuff you know. And so this is what he wants you to understand is this evolution of human existence. Okay, so remember, the control and manipulation started tens of thousands of years ago, right? And they brought in concepts like time and space. The calendar system, like everything was brought. Everything that is under the umbrella, right, of civilization, okay, is based on control and manipulation, okay? The universe is cyclical in ways that align, okay, with base magnetism, they're showing me the interaction of cellular composition, the interaction of atoms in space, like in existence, not time and space, but in space in the sense of like matter itself, okay? It's really interesting. It transmutes into different experiences based on intention, okay? So this is how there's so many different aspects, and this is how universes change and morph. And I mean, this is how, okay. So this is also how we've had ice ages on the planet, like different aspects, because floods, like all of these different things, you know, it's really beautiful how they're showing me. And Mother Earth, Gaia, however you want to, how you want to refer to her, in your most comfortable names, she evolves based on her connection with existence. You evolve based on your connection with existence. Do you feel that? Right. So her connection with existence, oh, this is beautiful. I can feel it. It doesn't matter what humans do to her. She's still participating in her own evolution. And the changes that she participates in are driven by her intentions to connect with and participate in something bigger than herself. Okay? Humans have yet to learn that. Relearn that is really the right word. Remember that. Okay? So we evolve in alignment with our relationship with the universe. The problem is that is what's been covered up for tens of thousands of years. Our relationship with the universe, our awareness of it, our understanding of it was erased from history. How was it erased? That information was hidden, not by taking it and putting it in a box and hiding it, in a cave somewhere underneath the ground and digging. It was hidden by placing false beliefs in front of people and saying, oh, this is the truth, and this is the truth, and this is the truth, right? I mean, most of us know that. And so ultimately, it's like they're showing me humans are like rabbits chasing carrots. And we're constantly looking for another carrot. And the carrots are strategically placed by those who want us to follow them. This is really important because the universe will never place a carrot. The universe will never encourage you to believe something. It will never push you in any direction because this entire universe is based on free will. So you have everything you need to explore your potential, to explore your own existence, to participate in evolution. But the universe will never encourage you to look at something in a specific way. Why? Because the creator, when you were created, knew that you would have full awareness of yourself and your connection with the universe. And so that's how we were manipulated. That's how that connection was taken away, is because humans have evolved, if you will. We'll use that term very loosely. But we've evolved. So we've chosen the path of least resistance. And that means that we've chosen the easy way. We've chosen to be present with aspects of ourself that don't demand truth. We've chosen to be present with aspects of our friends, our families, our relationships, our experiences, the careers that we choose are all aligned with aspects of ourself that don't demand truth. But why would we do that? Well, it's really simple, because it's easier. Because it's more comfortable. And it's more comfortable to live in a world where we can say, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'll take care of it later. Oh, it doesn't really matter. That's not going to make that much of a difference. But when what you're avoiding or what you're choosing not to see, not to look at, determines your ability to communicate and connect with the universe, then it affects every part of your experience. So what they're showing me is thinking about, so every human, okay, just visually for a minute, okay? They want you to show, he's asking me to show you, to collect this visual, okay? Imagine that you have an umbilical cord, right, from your belly button, okay, from your navel, that is an energetic cord that is aligned, it's lit up, it's not solid, it's literally, it's almost, it looks like strands of DNA, but they're like this golden buttery light, which is soul energy. Okay. And your connection, that your, it is like, it's like when, we're pregnant and we hold the baby, right? And, there's that connection, but we're connected to the universe through this cord. Okay. And most people think of their connection through their third eye. Okay. They think of this, this, they have this vision where light comes out of their third eye and it projects out and they receive information through that third eye from the universe. Okay. And that's because, and that comes from a lot. That comes from meditation. That comes from, practices where you're contemplating connection with the universe. And so we have been trained so strategically to believe that we can interpret and understand and feel our connections with our mind, with our brain. But that's not where our connection comes from. Our connection comes from vibration and energy. That is, we have our own vibration and energy, okay? But our vibration and energy is tuned to the frequency of the universe. Just feel that for a minute. Your vibration and energy is tuned to the frequency of the universe. So if you think about your physical body, right? Every single cell, it's like a radio. And your radio is constantly tuned into the channel that speaks in the most profound way possible. It is the vibration, frequency, knowledge, wisdom that comes directly from the universe. And so this information, this umbilical cord, if you will, okay? So just to give you a sense of, it never ends. And it's also this super high vibration. So it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. It's never disconnected. It's never turned off. And if you believe that your connection comes from your mind, from, your third eye and that concept, what happens is you can easily turn that off. And because you turn that off, because that's not really where your connection to the universe comes from, you then can create times in your life where you feel more disconnected than you feel connected, right? Okay. Now, I know I just said that your connection is never lost. It's not. But just like any radio, if you turn the volume all the way down, then you can't hear it. So if you think that this is where your connection is, right? But it's not really there, you can turn it off and on. Exactly. But you can't ever turn your connection off from the universe, but you can numb it. And this is where it gets really interesting. Okay? Because most of the things in our society, that those little carrots that they were talking about, they're designed to numb your connection. What does that mean? Okay. You can't feel if you're doing. Okay. And you may say to me, Michelle, I don't do anything all day. I just sit around watching TV. Well, you're doing something. Because the number one things that block us from being, right, from feeling that connection, from being aware of it, are anything that come into our mental space. Anything. I remember when I first started this journey, And so in my home as a child, okay, the radio was always on, always on. It was never not on, to the point where I remember my parents went away on a holiday for a week and they left us with friends who didn't listen to the radio. And my brother and I were starting to go crazy, to the point where we went down into their basement and found this like very, very old radio that we were like getting this dial and seeing if it would work, because we were having withdrawals. Now, again, as an 8-year-old little girl with her 5-year-old little brother, we were having withdrawals, okay, from a constant stream of information coming in. It wasn't until maybe five years into my journey where I really got that message and I understood it, okay? Every single thing you're putting in to your space means you have less opportunity to feel your connection with the universe. So your connection is never turned off, but you have to pay attention to it, right? It's like when the radio's on, but you don't really hear something because you're doing something else over here. It's on, but you have to pay attention to it, right? So this is what they're saying is, sorry, I'm very, very warm. There's so much energy. And I just need the hair off the back of my neck. That's really where I'm at. So ultimately, we are in this space of needing to learn how to decompress from, it's really cool the way they're showing me. It's not even decompressing. It's just allowing ourselves to get comfortable receiving universal information again. Okay? Because we all want it, right? We all have these questions that we're running around and we're asking for answers to. But what happens is we can't get them if we're not, yes, it's quiet enough, but it's more than that. Like what they're showing me is you have to be quiet, but then you have to want to actually feel the truth, not see the truth, hear the truth, know the truth, feel the truth. Why? Because, right, as humans, we've been walking around and we've decided feeling is bad, right? There's this massive movement for the last few decades of I'm an empath and people are too much for me, I need to hide. The reality is every single human in existence is an empath. We all have a super sensory ability to feel everything. Some of us have honed it. Some of us have allowed it to run amok and, decide that it's going to make us a victim ultimately, right? So if you're walking around saying, I'm an empath and it's too much to feel other people, it's just because you haven't honed your skill yet. You haven't owned it. So you are literally being shown that you have a super hyper sensitivity to being able to feel energy. And instead of going, why do I have that ability? How can I use that? What am I meant to do with it? You've decided, people hurt me when I use this. And I get hurt and bad things happen. So I'm going to shut down and I'm going to set boundaries so that other people can't hurt me. Instead of recognizing, and this is what I mean by truth, instead of recognizing that you have an ability, a hypersensitivity to feel energy, use that. People can't hurt you unless you decide that they're hurting you, right? If you put yourself in the line of fire, that's a choice. But that's the truth that most people don't want to see. And the reality is, it's how you interact with them that determines their interactions with you. Okay? So if you're walking around deciding other people are going to hurt you, then you're expecting it. And it doesn't matter what they say, you've decided it's going to hurt you. Right? There's a lot of people who come to me and they're like, oh, Michelle, I want truth. I want truth. And then I start sharing truth. Well, no, that's not true. No, because of this. And, like it can't be because I've already seen that. I've already worked on that. I've worked with Hollywood actors and all these famous people and all these high level CEOs. And, the ones who get it, are the ones who recognize that they don't actually know anything and that they have the opportunity to learn everything. That's how I look at my entire life. Why? Because that stream of consciousness, right? That my connection to the universe is never ending. And as my human form, this human shape, I've only been able to pick up, it's like pinheads of information from the universe. And I've had significant awarenesses and awakenings and shifts and all of the things, but it's still the teeny weeniest amount of an understanding of what is actually going on. Why? Because most of the truth is still covered up, right? So what they're sharing and what they want you to understand in this bigger conversation, okay? I know it seems like we're jumping all over the place because there's a whole bunch of different directions, but at the same time, it all comes back to one thing, okay? Your connection to the universe is changing. This is what's happening on the December solstice. So for the last 5 years, we've had a different shift. So 5 years ago, this universe went from an entire universe based on the universal vibration of love, not human love, universal love, okay? That's how the universe was created and founded since the beginning of its existence. Billions and billions of years ago, 5 versions, this is the 5th version of human existence, okay? All based on love. 5 years ago, that changed to truth. 5 years ago, that changed to truth. The first time in existence ever that the foundation was changed. So it's important to understand there are 9 fundamental energies that this universe is based on. Okay? Love and truth, purity, joy, illumination, balance, movement, compassion, and respect. Those are the 9. Okay. If you want to know about all of them, I've written about them in detail so you can understand because they're the foundation of the universe, but they're also the foundation of every single human soul. But love, okay, was the founding, the basis. So that meant, right? Because love is our ability to connect with each other. And so because this evolution of through that energy of love had been manipulated so badly. Okay. And what I mean by manipulated, so how those who chose, right, to create this situation with little rabbits and little carrots, okay, is they abused love. And if you look back through generations of what we've been told is civilization from the beginning, right? None of our connections are based on love. None. None of them are based on respect, purity, joy, none of them. Okay. And so ultimately, what needed to shift is this whole universe needed to shift to truth. That's what happened 5 years ago. That's why truth is coming out. Okay. But you have to remember, truth is coming out through all of these people who haven't aligned themselves with truth. They've aligned themselves with this big, huge manipulation. So you can't all of a sudden just say, I want to see the truth with all kinds of beliefs inside of you that are aligned with a whole bunch of non-truths. You can't just see truth. It doesn't work that way. You have to earn it almost is the energy that they're sharing. And what that means is you have to put the effort in to actually come to the universal truth. And the effort doesn't mean you look with your mind. That's why they were talking about the mind, right? And whole connection and your ability to feel energy. You have to feel truth. And it does not come through your mind. It doesn't come through any assessments. It doesn't come through any, let me do what are those lists where you're like a yay and nay, yes and no kind of list, pros and cons. Ha, there we go. Words, not good. Anyway, human energy, not words. Okay. So ultimately where we are, okay, as a human race, so we've been 5 years in truth now, okay? And you can see the great divide. You can see it. It's not secret. It's not anywhere. You can see those people who are interested in following the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is, versus those who are like, I'm going to fight for this illusion, because if I don't, my whole world is going to come crashing down. Because everything I believe in, everything I've built my life on, my family, my relationships will disintegrate if I don't hold true and fast to these illusions. You can see it. And then there's the others who want truth and they're dedicated to truth. And there's some who, our lives are seemingly crumbling on the surface, but it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because the universe is listening to you. It's felt your connection. It's felt your discontent, your restlessness at knowing that the life you're living isn't fulfilling. It doesn't bring contentment. And you're just tired. You're tired of having conversations where you want the truth and don't feel like you're getting it. You're tired of having conversations where you're wasting your breath saying the same things over and over again, but it feels like no one hears you. So what they're doing about that. So this will probably come out, I don't know. It'll be a couple weeks. So it may be a couple weeks before the solstice. It could be even closer to the solstice. I don't really know. But no matter what, okay, on the December solstice of 2025, this universe is shifting and including the vibration of illumination. Okay. They've been adding different vibrations for the last 5 years. We've gone into depth in it. We've explored them. We've had ceremonies in these energies and universal experiences that have literally been life-changing inside of our private community, the Authentic Human Collective. Why? Because these are people who they feel it and they want this energy. They want to feel it and they want to experience it firsthand so that they can step into it and have that awareness as quickly and efficiently as possible, right? So this is why we have open conversations about it, right? Because this is what they're talking about is it takes time for humans to process new information energetically. Just like it takes time for you. When someone says something to you that's shocking and you're like, wow, I'm going to need to process that, right? It takes time. You have a conversation with someone and how many times when you leave that conversation, are you still in it? Right? In your head, you're like, oh, I should have said this, or wow, I can't believe they said this and this happened. And, and your brain is still active because you're processing. But energetically, you're processing all the time. And you don't even realize how much information you're processing. So every year for the last 5 years, the creator, okay, has infused this universe with a new energy, okay? I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but I do know, and it is fascinating because they infused a few years ago transparency, and it was fascinating to then, see the world all of a sudden, all these conversations were about transparency and businesses, founding themselves on transparency, and yet they weren't using universal transparency. They were like, we're just going to show you this process so that you feel like you're part of what's going on behind the scenes, but that's not transparency. That's not transparency at all. It's transparency is no longer being able to hide from yourself. So they can feel, and that's my point is, even though you may not have the mental full, understanding of what's going on in the universe, every single human feels it. And you are processing it. It's coming out of you, whether you know it, whether you realize it or not. So you're making changes in your relationships. You're making changes where you live, where in your home, how you feel comfortable in your space. You're making changes to your financial situation. You're making changes to your career. Why? Because you're processing energy. And every human is on this evolutionary path. It doesn't need to look the same. It doesn't mean that we're all out there and we're all being spiritual, and walking around in robes and praying and whatever it is that we're doing in sacred ceremonies. It doesn't need to look like that, right? Because what it needs to look like is you exploring ways to get comfortable with who you are, to get comfortable with you allowing yourself to be yourself no matter what, so that you're no longer looking for carrots. You're not a rabbit looking for carrots. You're literally in your place, understanding and recognizing that the universe comes to you. It doesn't need you to go anywhere to look for anything outside of yourself. The universe comes to you. Wisdom comes to you. That's the shift we're moving into. That's illumination. And it is humbling. It is challenging because things start to show up that you didn't ask for, that you don't think you deserve, but that you don't want, right? Truths that you're like, whoa, that's hard to swallow. When all of a sudden it becomes glaringly obvious that the way you've been participating in something is not appropriate, right? That's what's happening. That's illumination. Because here's the thing. You cannot find true joy or fulfillment until you allow yourself to participate in your own existence in this way. It's impossible. That fulfillment that you're chasing, wanting to be happy, wanting to be filled with joy, it can't happen until you allow yourself to recognize all the places where you're blocking those things. Okay? Nobody put a block in front of you. It's impossible. Okay? It's actually impossible for someone to put something inside of you that blocks you from your own joy. You, energetically, universally, as a soul, have the power to blow through it, to incinerate anything and everything in your path. Why? Because the universe designed you that way. The universe created you as a fully conscious extension of existence. And inside of you is a wisdom so complex, so intricate, and so highly advanced that not only do you have the ability to recognize truth above all else, you have the ability to see it everywhere. You have the ability to allow it to come in spite of your fears, in spite of your discomforts, and in spite of the fears and discomforts of those around you. You are programmed that way. But you have to want to let it come in. You have to let it. And so all those blocks that we perceive, blocks are just beliefs that you stick in front of a truth and you say, no, I don't want to see that. That's not me. I don't do that. I'm not that person. The truth is you are. And it's not about wasting time judging yourself for being that person. Because the moment you recognize that you are someone you don't want to be, you stop being it. But you can't stop until you see it. You literally will stop being it because when you see it, okay, and this is what processing universal energy looks like and feels like. You get information and you're like, wow, that's how the universe exists. I've been doing it this way. I didn't get it. This is how I've been interacting in my relationships. I didn't realize that respect meant I had to allow myself to respect myself first. I was waiting and demanding it from everyone else around me, right? That's an example. And so when you walk around expecting everybody else to respect you while you're not respecting yourself, it's impossible. And yet that's the block that you put in front of you. That's what they designed. So they put all of these, carrots in front of you. Why? To teach you how to put a block in front of yourself. It's crazy. And yet it worked. And now we're at this place in human evolution. This is important. We're at this place in human evolution where for the first time in existence, so this has never been done before, okay? We are literally participating in the greatest advancement of consciousness in existence, which means the creator has allowed, right? He's watched, he's navigated and understood and had the awareness of this manipulation of human existence. He's watched it. And he's not up there judging those who manipulate it. He's just watching it unfold. But he's excited. Why? Because he knows that human beings have something the manipulators don't know and don't get because they don't have it. Right? And we've talked about that in past episodes, right? These are reptilians, these are draconians, these are beings who don't have all those nine energies because they're not from here. So they're at a deficit. And it's not just these 9 energies intellectually, right? Understanding what they are. It's understanding that they don't have a direct connection to universal awareness. They don't have a direct connection to the creator. They don't know what their potential is in this universe. They don't have the ability to understand that we're all, the way they're showing me is when we work together, when humans work together as a team, okay? So if you imagine, little cells or atoms and they have little lines and there's like another cell and another, I don't know the scientific terms, but if you think of all of humanity in that way, okay? What it means and what it understands is we're not all one in the sense of we all need to think the same way and do the same thing, because that's completely against creation. What it means is when we allow ourselves to be part of that connection, that foundation of existence, right? So, if you imagine every single cell, I got to have a visual for this, but when you imagine every single one of the cells is another human who's chosen to be in awareness of their universal potential. Okay? And when we all come together, we have the ability to propel the universe in a completely different direction. Doesn't matter what direction. But whatever we're focused on is the direction the universe is going to choose, is going to go, because that's where all the energy is going. And right now, okay, and for the past 50,000 years, this is the manipulation. We've all, whether we're aware of it or not, we've all been focusing on the control and manipulation. We've been following all the little carrots in front of us. And so that's the direction the universe has gone. And that's changing. It's changing. They're showing me faster than the speed of light, if you will. Okay? Because again, there's no such thing as time and space. And it has been. Everything's faster. The world is crumbling. But the foundation underneath is based on truth, which means it's so much harder, right, for that control and manipulation to get through, unless we choose to give it a way to get through. And that's the point, is no one can block you unless you don't want to see it. And that's how they created this whole manipulation in the first place. They created the illusion that other people can block you. Other people can tell you what you're capable of, what you can and can't do, right? How much money you can or can't make. How much time you have to work to get the things you want. None of it's true. But if you believe it is, then that's what you've aligned yourself with. Doesn't mean that that's the only thing that's true for you. It means that's what you've aligned yourself with. And that's the only thing you're able, right, to allow into your space, because that's the block you put in front of you. Nobody else put it there. They put a little carrot, offered it to you, and you went, oh, that one looks great. I am definitely looking for the job where I spend 8 to 12 hours working 5 to 7 days a week because I want my time to be consumed with that. So what? That's the carrot you picked. So this is illumination, is recognizing that those carrots don't exist, the blocks don't exist, and that everything is possible. But it's really hard for a lot of people to accept that. It's the thing you want the most. You want to be able to do anything you want whenever you want. It's what everyone wants. But it's really hard to accept. Do you want to know why? Because it means that you're going to have to go through remorse, sadness for believing it was the other way for so long, feeling like you've wasted time, you've wasted money, you've wasted energy, you've wasted relationships to get to that place where you actually believe this is true. This is what 2025 has been about. And they started infusing this energy of illumination in October, on the 21st of October, in 2 months. So they had 2 months preparation time, okay, to get to the solstice, because again, integration is important. If all of a sudden they put illumination in at full force, on the 21st, we would be running around like, I don't know if you've ever seen, there was this Queen album years and years ago. It was album, so record. And it was called, I think, News of the World. And if you could, 1970s, guys, and you could open it, and inside it was a whole bunch of people like inside the earth, anyways, screaming and running around like, crazy. And it was, but that's what it would have been like. And this is what they're trying to explain to you, okay, is all of these things you think you want, and then they start to show up and they seem scary. They seem terrifying. It's not that you don't want it. It means that you have to tear down those blocks, those beliefs, those uncomfortable feelings to actually climb the ladder to receive them. You have to go through that process of sadness, of remorse, of feeling like you've wasted your time, your energy. If you're still holding those feelings, you haven't processed yet. You haven't even gotten close to starting to process the energy. You're still blocking it from coming in because you're so upset or worried that you're going to have to look at it like, oh my gosh, I wasted my anger. Maybe you haven't talked to someone for 5 or 10 years because you were upset with something that happened, but you really want to be a part of that person's life, or you want them to be a part of your life. And, you're going to have to face the fact that maybe the way you dealt with it wasn't appropriate. Maybe the way that you approached that person or blocked them, again, it was based on something that wasn't truth. And so this is the part of human evolution that, everyone says they want, but when it shows up, there's about 2% that keep going, that are like that freight train that goes right through the center of it. And it doesn't matter the discomfort. This is the difference between those leaders right now, those people who you see experiencing ultimate joy, who are receiving and having experiences with everything they are capable of and potential, and their potential, what it is, because they're not scared anymore. They're not interested in even noticing that there's blocks in front of them. They're not there. But they're also recognizing that there's no such thing as carrots. They're not hungry for carrots. They don't even want to look for carrots because they're just not interested. It doesn't matter. There could be millions and millions of carrots. They'll go hungry without any of them because they're just not interested. They're over here in recognition of their connection to the universe. Okay. So we're going to go a lot more in depth into this because ultimately, 2026, they said 2025 was going to be the most challenging year of human existence. This is why, because we have to deal with our inside stuff, right? The stuff that's inside of us that no one else can see. And we're navigating it. Most people are navigating it on their own, trying to figure it out. And it looks a little bit messy. And that's fine. You're supposed to. But if you're still looking at it with these blocks, it can't come true. And so 2026 is the joy after the struggle. Okay. But it's understanding if you haven't done your work, if you haven't noticed that you're A, chasing carrots, or B, you have been putting blocks in front of you because you haven't wanted to deal with that stuff. If you aren't there yet, you can't experience the joy of the universe and your connection to it and all the wisdom that's sitting there just waiting for you. So I'm going to encourage you, and the entire universe is here, all these universal beings. And they're here to encourage you to feel. So all the things you do to consume your mind so it doesn't feel, see if you can turn them off. Turn them off a bit. Tech is number one, right? I mean, there's so many tests that have been done. If you have any Wi-Fi in your space, you're not going to be able to feel energy purely. It can come in, but it's going to be impacted. Turn off the Wi-Fi. Give it a break. Just do not sleep. I know this is really hard because it's amazing to me how many people sleep with their phones in their bedrooms. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have that energy close to you. But more importantly, that shouldn't be the first thing you look at in the morning, even if it's your alarm clock. Get an old-fashioned alarm clock. You plug it in and it lights up with big letters and or numbers, because they're not letters, that'd be weird. But the whole point is we have to, and that's another part. If you've been following for a while, we have to go backwards. That's where this is going. It's going backwards before all this technology, because this level of technology, this hyper vigilance to it's hyperactivity, right? It's the more focused we are externally, and especially when it comes to technology that is connected to Wi-Fi, okay? The further you are from feeling universal energy. The reason it has gone skyrocketing in the past 10, 15 years is because the universal energy is going up. So they're like, well, how are we going to negate that? We're going to create more technology. So if you're the person who can't wait to get the newest version of whatever technology you like, if you wear technology devices on your body, rings, watches, you are completely impacted 24 hours a day. So I'm going to encourage you to remove watches, remove rings, remove anything that is attached to your body, okay, that has Wi-Fi on it. I know, it's going to be crazy, especially in the world that's taught us to rely on it. But challenge yourself and just notice. Do it for 3 or 4 days. Notice how your energy shifts. Notice your ability to feel more. And then, what are you going to do about it? Make some changes. Or are you just going to go back and say, oh, it doesn't matter. Everybody else is doing it. It doesn't make that big of a difference. That's a block right there. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. I know this is a massive challenge and I get it. And we've been so programmed to rely on it entirely, but it has been strategically done. And the Creator is up there. He's waiting because he believes in humanity. He believes in his creation. He believes in your ability to not only feel the truth, but to choose to align yourself with it. And that's the difference. That's where we're at right now. There's a difference between wanting truth and then allowing it to come in and feeling it and then aligning yourself with it, right? That's the integration process. Because when you align with it, You do things in the way that ensure you succeed, because that's how the universe was created. When you align, you are not only asserting your success, you're participating in it. And that's the participation that he's waiting for. He knows every single human in existence. He is in the creator, knows every single human in existence has the potential to reclaim our connection with the universe. It's right there. But you're going to have to want to see the truth, and you're going to have to want to remove the blocks you put in the way. See you next time. Bye for now.